So it can be seen, right? Okay. So here are my credentials, and let's start. This will be the content of our today's webinar. Introduction, well, that's what we are doing right now. Then we will be talking a little bit about fundraising, project proposal application, project management, advocacy, reporting, and then there will be that time for questions and answers. So that is what we are going to do. Introduction. Okay, so I'm not sure how many of you have already experience in working with preparation of the projects, implementing of the projects. I believe that many of you. I think this will give you kind of a good overview, put a good basis for all of you in order you are all at the same level concerning the project management. And then we have some advanced topics, some advanced tips, which we will be talking about in the second half of our presentation. So you can get some interesting information and some interesting tips. I will share with you this presentation afterwards. I will send it to Josep and he will distribute it among yourselves. So, so you will have it at your disposal. Maybe in the future when you will be drafting your own projects, maybe you will have your own NGOs, or you already have NGOs, or you are working for NGOs. You can use these practical guides for your own benefit. As I said, I'm in this NGO CSO business for over 10 years with around 24, 25 projects implemented in the European neighborhood, fundraised around 860,000 euro over the period of time. So and now we have this consultancy and think tank, and we are sharing our experience with the implementation, with project writing. We are helping writing with the project. So that's what we are doing right now. So if you know the project management in general, I mean, project management is not the prerogative only for civil society or NGO sector, but if you know the project management in general, you know that its process consists of 5 stages. First is concept stage, second is planning, then implementation, then performance and control, and last evaluation, then start over again. That is project management in NGO or CSO workers. We adapt this topic a little bit. So under the concept phase, we understand setting goals for our project and then creating a project idea, what we would like to do, how we would like to solve a certain problem. That is basically what you were doing in your essays, which I read. You got a task to come up with some kind of a project idea that is reflecting on a certain problem that is in your region present. And you are building a small narrative topic or a small narrative text about it. So that's the first phase. So in our understanding as NGO CSO workers, on the concept phase, we understand creating or coming up with a project idea that is reacting to a certain problem. And of course, you have to set a goal for your project idea. What would you like to achieve? Planning phase, in our understanding, or in NGO CSO sphere, that is grant searching or searching for fundraising. And here in this phase also belong project proposal drafting and then application. That's what we will be talking a little bit later. Those are those practical steps before you can actually write your project. You need to find some kind of a potential donor which could help you with your project. Then the third phase, implementation. In NGO CSO world, it is implementation of project activities. So when you already get your project proposal approved, you start with the implementation. So those are implementation of the project activities. And here into this phase belong also visibility. We will be talking about that at the end of this session, today's session, as well, because visibility is very important. Performance and control, in our understanding, is the same, basically. We need to also check our performance of our project, and control our project, how we are progressing, whether we are progressing towards the goal that we set for our project. So performance and control is the same. And then at the end, evaluation, in our understanding, that is advocacy and reporting to the donor and financial accounting. So when we will be talking about this project management circle, we will be talking about these points. So let's start with the first one, concept. As I said, we as NGO, CSO workers, usually we work on social topics. So we identify a certain problem which we believe that needs to be solved, or that we have a capacity to solve. So that was what you were doing in your essays. You identified a certain problem that is eminent in your region, and then you try to draft a brief, simple project idea from it. So build around it project idea. So you can see problem here is defined in our understanding as a social science realm. It's a problem that is concerning a certain social problem in our region, in our environment, or yes, and then from based on knowing the problem, you develop a goal for your project. Goal is a kind of a benchmark that tells us whether we are nearing towards solution of that given problem. That is goal. And based on setting the goal, we can draft the project idea, which is kind of a structured roadmap on how we will achieve that goal. Okay, so that's a kind of a line of causality from problem to identification of goal, and then developing it into a project idea. Goal setting. I'm sure you heard about this. It's not only in NGO sphere that when you are setting goal, your goals should be smart. You know, now everything is smart. Also, your goals should be smart. What does it mean? Your goal should be specific. You should react. You should cover basic responses to basic questions. So who is going to do what, where, when do it? So your goal must kind of incorporate answers to all these basic questions in order it is specific enough to be understood also by other people, for example, a potential donor. Then it needs to be measurable. Of course, each goal needs to be measurable, in order you know whether you are progressing towards its successful reaching. You need to see that by the end of the project implementation that you are really reaching to your goal. It needs to be attainable. You need to have the capacity and resources and capabilities and tools and means in order you can achieve that goal. It needs to be realistic. Well, that's very important as well, to set a realistic goals that ensures that you are able to achieve your goal at the certain time frame. And that's the last part of the SMART. It's that T, and that is timely. Your goal needs to be timely, so you need to make sure that within the set timeline you can reach your goal. So it's a kind of a deadline for you that by the end of the implementation of the project you can reach that goal. So that's a smart setting of goals. Now, project idea. Many of you already know what the project idea is. You were doing something like this. Maybe you were not aware that it is a project idea, but the essays that you were writing, basically it was a kind of a project idea. But in general, we say that the project idea is a kind of a basic outline of what needs to be done, what resources are needed, which stakeholders need to be engaged, and in which time frame in order we can achieve the set goal or goals that should address the given problem. That's a theory. In practice, let's break it down into practice. I put here one example. We set a goal that we would like to decrease youth unemployment in each one municipality. So our project idea then would be, for example, in cooperation with the local administration and the local businesses, we will establish kind of a youth co-working place, some kind of an incubator, where we will be teaching young, potential young workers how to develop IT, how to create web pages. We will be teaching them some graphical skills. Okay, so project idea is very simply with whom, where, and what we would like to achieve, and goal is kind of a framework where we would like to get. We will do and that's I think a little bit later. So we will be also suggesting some project ideas, but in a couple of minutes. Now let's continue a little bit. Planning. Planning is the second phase of project management circle. As I said, in our understanding, that is grant searching or fundraising, and also project drafting and application. Fundraising, well, if you have a certain plan, certain goal that you would like to achieve, you have a project idea in your mind, but you need resources to put that project idea into practice. Then you do fundraising. It is searching for a donor or financial resources that needs to be put it into the project, and in order that project can be put it into the practice and you can achieve your goal. How to get there? Usually you have to submit a project proposal to a certain donor. So if you identify a donor that could be suitable for your project idea, you draft a project proposal, kind of a developing of the project idea into a clear, structured roadmap, in order donor can understand from that kind of a project proposal form what are your goals, what are your purposes of your project, what are expected outputs that you are expecting of your project, what will be activities of your project, what are the means and resources that you need to mobilize in order to be able to put this into practice. Just a second. And also to clarify what are the assumptions needed for your projects to be put into practice. So what are the conditions that needs to be in place in order your project idea can be, your project proposal can be put into a realization. So that's the project proposal drafting and application. Now, let's continue. Let's talk a little bit more about grant searching or fundraising. In general, we know two methods of grant searching or fundraising. First method is that you have a certain project idea that reflects a certain problem, and you are searching for funding how to put this project idea into implementation practice. So you have an idea, you know there is a certain problem in your municipality, in your region. So with that in mind, you are searching for potential donors that can cover that specific problem or that specific project idea. For example, as we said, I want to establish a common co-working space and business incubator for young entrepreneurs in Injevan municipality. So I'm searching for such donors which can support project idea focused on young people, raising young employability, or raising skills of young people in regions of Armenia. Second approach is when you have a certain skills or certain expertise or capabilities, and you are actively searching for funding opportunity by a certain donor, in order you can put your practice, your experience into help, into practice, and implement the project that could use your expertise or your skills. So for example, I am a project manager trainer. I'm looking for an opportunity to organize training for young professionals in Western Balkan countries or South Caucasus countries. So I have a certain skills, and I'm trying to find a funding opportunity for putting those my skills in good assistance to some kind of a project or some kind of a donor. Okay. Some tips about fundraising, some advanced fundraising tips. You can search for the fundraising also based on your goals. That's also one way of how to do it. So if you know that you are planning to do some kind of a research grant, you will start searching according to or you will start searching among donors that are providing funding for research or providing funding for think tanks, or if your project is focused socially or environmentally or educationally. Oh, I'm sorry. You are searching in those categories or among those donors that you know they are focusing on these areas. Second type of searching for donors is based on the type of a donor. So you are searching according to foundations or endowments or state institutions, EU funds or private donors. So when you have a certain project idea in mind, and you know that this project idea could be maybe supported by some kind of state institution, you are searching for grant opportunities or fundraising opportunities from those state institutions that are providing grants for CSOs. Or if you have some kind of a bigger regional project idea that incorporates maybe organizations of different organizations from the region, you can apply for a bigger project from EU funds, for example. So depends on type of a donor. That's also one of the criteria that you can search for. Then searching based on a target group of a project. Different donors usually support different target groups. So there are donors that are supporting projects that are focused on youth. For example, Erasmus Plus, which I'm sure you all know, or there are grants that are for experts or scientific workers, scientific projects, like for example, EU Marie Curie, or projects that can be supporting some activities for elderly people or for minorities or people with disability. So this is also another way how you can search for grants. Another option can be intended project activities. When you know what kind of a project activities you would like to implement within the implementation of your project, it also helps you to focus yourself on, or to use it as a search criteria for you when you are searching for a proper donor. You can, if you have a research project and output of your project should be some kind of a study or research, then you know that you need to search among those donors that are supporting also research projects. Or if you're planning some kind of intercultural or international exchanges, you search among those donors that are supporting this kind of activities. Or if you have a local community development or project idea, then you are searching among those fundraising donors. And last but not least, based on geographical location, There are donors which are focusing only on EU countries. There are donors that are focusing on specific regions, like, for example, Visegrad region or Eastern Partnership countries or Central Eastern Europe. So this is also criterion that you need to take into account, whether the donor to whom you would like to apply with your project proposal is supporting projects from your region. Where to find for funding opportunities? I put here some of the web pages where you can search for potential donors. I'm sure many of them you know already. So, for example, if you are searching by topics and you select the youth activities funding, then you get Erasmus Plus or South EU youth searching engines where you can search for potential opportunities. Or if you are searching by a region, you have a Black Sea Trust Fund by German Marshall Fund, which are supporting projects from your region, or International Visegrad Fund, which can through Visegrad Plus support projects also from your region. Then here I have also some examples from other regions: European Fund for the Balkans, Balkan Fund for Democracy, institutional donors like EU grants search engine. On this link, you can find project opportunities which are there for the Europe Aid. So Europe Aid and also other structured EU grants, focusing also on the neighborhood countries. So if you visit that web page, you can click different criteria based on which you can select potential grant that can fit your goal or your project idea. And the last link over there, the triple funds, it's a kind of a it's a grant searching engine. It's a big database of donors and potential grant providers. There are around 4,000 entries. The access is paid, so if you want to use it, you need to pay a certain amount of money in order to be able to enter that database. But then you can search through those different searching criteria that I mentioned a slide ago, and you can focus your search on that area which you really need for your project proposal or for your project idea. You will have this presentation at disposal, so you can find these web pages there. Okay, some tips what to pay attention to when you are searching for a. Yes, there I see a hand over there. Is there a question?
Could you also mention the sequence of activities briefly, like how to start with finding the donor and how to start the process, just the sequence in short?
Yes, sequencing will be, you mean sequences of what is first, that you need to have a goal, then you need to have a project idea, all these things, right? I will explain in a couple of minutes later. We will be discussing that. All sequences from starting from the idea to the implementation and then how to successfully finish the project. We will talk about it today. Now we are talking just a little bit about the fundraising. So if that answered your question, I would continue with the fundraising.
No, thank you.
Okay. Going back to the fundraising, what to pay attention to when you are searching for a certain donor? Well, first of all, make sure that your goal of your project does align with the goal of the donor. Donors, they also have their own goals, of course. They're not putting their money just like that into a certain project. So they have also their own goals. They would like to boost for example, certain capacities in a certain country or in a certain region. They would like to develop certain skills among certain target groups, etc., etc. So when you are searching for a grant, always read properly the conditions and guidelines in order you know that the goals of the donor are the same as yours. In order, then if you write a project proposal, your project proposal is actually considered by the donor, and it's not ends up without a response. Second important thing, deadline. So make sure that you know when is the deadline of your call in order you prepare all the necessary steps, which we will be talking in a minute, before the deadline of project of that certain donor. Then a very important thing is what are the eligibility criteria. Each donor has a different eligibility criteria for giving the grants. There are certain formal criteria that your organization or you yourself needs to fulfill, or they need some specific additional information about your organization, like proofs of eligibility or any additional documents. So make sure that you have all these documents at hand when you are deciding to submit a project proposal to a certain donor. Then another very important thing is what track record or previous experience with the similar projects does this donor require. This is especially the case of bigger projects when donor is checking whether you as an organization or you as a project manager has already worked with certain amount of budget or you have a certain experience with running a certain bigger project, whether you have managerial skills or organizational skills or a simple skills of within your organization that you are able to handle bigger projects, for example. So with bigger projects, there are questions from the donor towards your organization, whether you are fulfilling those kind of a criteria, you have this kind of a experience already. Another important thing to keep in mind when searching for a grant is um, how does the project application form look like, what is required, how much time approximately you would need in filling it. Are there any specific annexes that you need to prepare or maybe require from your official offices, your registry or Ministry of Interior or Ministry of Justice, that you need to have some kind of a proof about your organization, that you need to have it in advance. Maybe there are some kind of a waiting periods for those state institutions to issue you those confirmations. So you need to take also this into account in order you know what are these sequences when you need to apply for that certain document from your state institution, then you can receive it and then you can use it as an annex applying for a grant from a certain donor. Another very important thing you need to pay attention to is co-financing. Always check whether there is a requirement for co-financing, whether you need to have your own money as a co-financing, or you can use your in-kind contribution. So, like for example, your work or things that you are doing as an in-kind co-financing of those money that comes from a certain donor. Another important thing is whether you need also a partnership, whether you need partners or you can do the project on your own. Some donors that require there is a consortium of implementers, consortium of organizations. Like for example, this project which HOVSEP is implementing right now and you are part of, there was an obligation that he has partners from Visegrad 4 countries, like for example, our organization or other organizations. Or with EU grants, larger EU grants, you need to have a consortium. There are at least number of organizations from the EU countries. Depends on a donor or a different call. You need to have a different number of partners. But this is always important that when you are already searching for that funding opportunity, to make sure that you are aware of this obligation, and you know that, okay, I will need for this project a partner from Poland, from Hungary, from Czech Republic, Slovakia, and then I can apply for this project. What is the intended timeline of the project implementation envisaged by the donor? This is also a very important thing. In simple, it means at what period of time donor expects you to use the grant and you to finish with the project, because donors, they have their own financial frameworks within which they operate, within which they have to do accounting of their fiscal year. So they also set for you a certain period of time, for example, 12 months or 18 months maximum, how long your project can be implemented. So when you are searching for a grant, you already need to pay attention whether the activities that you would like to do, whether they fit into that framework of, I don't know, 12 months or 18 months, okay? And last but not least, some donor-specific conditions. Some donors can have a specific conditions, like, for example, International Visegrad Fund specifically says that you need to have partners from Visegrad 4 countries, okay? So you need to read through that grant proposal, that grant call properly, in order you know whether there is no specific condition that you could not meet, okay? Now, when we decided that this is the right donor, we like a certain project call, then we go to second phase, second step, and that is project proposal drafting. What is it? You can see on the screen, it's a kind of a transcribing a project proposal into an application form from a donor to be evaluated and potentially supported. So you have a certain project idea, you develop it into project proposal, but in order donor can easily evaluate your project, they usually have a project form, project application form, where you write your project proposal, different parts, outline, goals, purposes, outputs, activities, and budget table. And for donor, it is easier to understand what your project is about, what you will need for that project, and can easily compare it with other potential applications that they receive from other potential implementers. So that's why they need to use a certain application form. Usually those are online application forms. You can download it and you just fill it and then submit it. Of course, some of them are more complicated, some of them are easier. Depends on the donor and of course of the budget. The bigger budget, the more complicated project proposal, usually. What we need to know when we are going to draft a project proposal. First of all, we need to define, we need to define what project activities need to be implemented in order to achieve outputs that will lead us to project purpose and that will ultimately lead to the main goal of our project. I will explain these terms in a one minute in a nice table. So, but at now, it is important for you to remember project activities, outputs, purpose, goal, okay? Then in project proposal, we need to determine what kind of resources, so costs, means, financial resources, human resources, expertise, we need to mobilize in order those project activities can be put into place. And we also need to determine assumptions based on which we can implement those activities. So This another two terms you need to remember: resources and assumptions. And then we need to evaluate risks and how to mitigate those risks when we will be implementing our projects. So that is another term, risks. And last but not least, we need to determine kind of a measurable indicators based on which we will establish whether the project is progressing towards our set goal. So measurable indicators. Now, all these words, they put together and they create this logical framework. Can you see it on your screen? Logical framework, it is kind of a chart which on one page at a relatively small space incorporates all main features of your project. For bigger project proposals, you usually are obliged to draft this logical framework, and it is an obligatory annex of some project proposals. Like, for example, EU projects, you need to have this logical framework. There is a simplified logical framework also with the Visegrad Fund grant. There are logical frameworks in different application forms, but usually this table is a kind of a silver lining. It's in many different projects, but it usually looks like this. Let's break it down. Let's see what is in this table, and let's explain. Okay. So if we take the first column on the left, you can see there is a goal that is, we already spoke about goal at the beginning. So that is the goal of your project. That is that broader impact which you would like to achieve through your project. Okay. In our understanding, or in our example, that goal was to decrease unemployment of youth in Armenia. Okay, that would be our main overall goal. Purpose is immediate development or immediate outcome at the end of a project. So when we finish our project implementation, will there be a certain change? What will be that change? So you need to identify it. In our case, we will narrow it down, the example, we will narrow it down that we would like to increase employability of young people in Ijevan region, in Ijevan municipality. Outputs. Outputs, those are basically immediate results of our activities. The outputs needs to be measurable, and they need to be specific. And from the point of view of donors, we are responsible for delivering those outputs. I will get to this point once again, because it's very important, but outputs. So in our case, of our that example project would be, output would be that we trained, I don't know, 50 young people with skills of web development or web page development, some IT skills. So the output will be those 50 young people from Ijevan municipality that were trained by us within the implementation of our project. Okay, so that is output. Output, there can be number of outputs. In our case, that can be also, of the outputs can be actually that we establish that incubator for young entrepreneurs. So the physical building or a physical space where they can meet and where we can do those trainings for them. That is also project output. Okay. What is important is that when you write output into the project proposal, you need to be sure that you fulfill it, because output is what your donor is checking whether your project managed to achieve. So the outputs are important from your point of view. Goal is a general goal, is an overall goal, and your project should lead to that goal or to help to achieve that goal. But the general goal, if it is like decreasing unemployment of youth in Armenia, it's a broad goal. Of course, your project can contribute to that goal a little bit, but you will not solve youth unemployment in Armenia with one project, of course. So that's why it's a broad goal. Your project is contributing to solving that broad goal. But what the donor will be checking is whether you manage to deliver those outputs which you predicted or suggested. Project activities, well, those are those activities that you implement on spot, which you implement within the project time frame that leads to those outputs. So in our case, in our example, one of the activities will be finding a suitable venue for that incubator for young entrepreneurs in Ijevan, equipping it with computers, with some kind of technique. That will be one activity. Second activity can be, we already have a kind of a physical infrastructure, so second activity will be organizing workshop for young people from Ijevan municipality about web development. Another will be workshop for young women from Ijevan municipality on some graphical design skills, etc., etc. Okay, so those are the activities that we do on the ground in order we deliver outputs that will help us to achieve purpose and goal of our project. Okay. Now, you see second and third column. Sorry, third and fourth column. There are those objectively verifiable indicators of achievement. I mentioned a couple of slides ago that we need to have some kind of a verifiable indicators that will tell us that we are reaching that goal, that we are reaching that purpose, that we are reaching those outputs of our project. So in this column, we identify what will be those verifiable indicators for us. At the level of goal, in our example, decreasing youth unemployment in Armenia would be, the indicator would be that there is a decrease of unemployment in Armenia, and the indicator or verifiable source, that is the next column, verifiable source would be official statistics of Armenia, of the government of Armenia, on the youth unemployment. So we will see whether at the beginning of the project and at the end of the project, if there is a difference in how high is the unemployment in Armenia, and based on that we will know whether we contributed to it or not. That is a broad goal. That is a general, we are just contributing to that goal. At the level of purpose, we need to see if there is a change in the youth unemployment in our municipality, in Ijevan municipality. So again, we will be checking official statistics of the Ijevan municipality or Ijevan region to see if there is a decrease in unemployment. At the level of outputs, well, if we said that there will be 50 young people that were trained by us, so we need to define 50 young people trained within the project. That is our that is our objective verifiable identificator, those 50 young people, and the sources that we will have photos from those activities, that we will have short videos, that we will have participants list where they sign in that yes, they participated in that activity, and we can have some kind of a before and after a questionnaire for them in order we check whether there was some kind of increase in knowledge. So we give them test at the beginning. We ask couple of questions, some practical questions, or that will be handled within the workshop. We will see how many of them score that they know already that topic or that knowledge, and then we give the same questions at the end, and we will see the difference. Yes, so before and after questionnaire. That is also kind of a qualitative qualitative indicator that shows us whether we progressed with the implementation. At the level of activities, you see there are no verifiable indicators, but there are means. And in the next column, there are costs. So in this table, you already need to identify what you will need for your activities in order you can actually implement them. So you need human resources, you need trainers that will train those young people in IT skills. You need find offices or some kind of meeting space somewhere in Ijevan that you will rent. You need computers, laptops, or some equipment that you will procure for them. So those are the means. And then costs, here you write just the estimate, not the estimate. Here you write the total amount that you will need for your budget. Budget will be an annex of this project proposal, but here in the logical framework, you need to write the total amount, how much you will be requiring from the donor. And the last column, as you can see, assumptions. Assumptions are those conditions that needs to be met in order you are able to implement your activities, reach your outputs, to deliver your outputs, to reach your purpose, and to reach the goal. So you need to think already when you are drafting the project proposal, what kind of conditions needs to be met in order you are able to fulfill those criteria. Example, because this is a theory, but I'm sure you would like to know the practical example. So in our imaginary project, where we are decreasing the unemployment of youth unemployment in Armenia, namely in Ijevan municipality, in case of goal, the assumption would be that there is a willingness on the side of the young people of Armenia that they would like to get they want to get employed actually. So there needs to be this kind of a willingness that is a condition in order we can be successful. We can successfully work with this our project. That there is a will of young people in Armenia to get employment and to do something for it. At the level of purpose, there is a assumption that in Ijevan municipality there are such young people that would like to increase their capacities or build their capacities in area of IT or web development or graphical design that would like to participate in our project. Then at the level of outputs, the assumptions could be that there are young people that would attend our workshop, that actually they are willing to come to that place. They are willing to take those courses. They are taking them regularly, and at the end, they get those skills. Okay, so that's a kind of assumption at the level of outputs. And at the level of activities, well, for example, is there really available venue for establishing that youth entrepreneurs hub? Is there a suitable venue that can be used, or are there young participants that are willing to come to those trainings? Are there trainers, or do we have trainers skilled enough to do those trainings for them? Okay, so here you write those assumptions. And when you fill this table, that is kind of a basic or first cornerstone on which you are building your project proposal. I always advise to start with this logical framework. Yes, sometimes it's difficult to think about all these categories, but when you solved it on one page, what is your goal, purpose, outputs, activities, when you write it there, then it is easier for you to write all those narrative parts of the project proposal. And we will get there in a second. Okay, individual work. So You will get to task. I would like to see if you understood this concept of logical framework. So let's have a logical framework of a certain project to devise. So think about a project idea, maybe those which you wrote in that essay, and think about how, think about and identify what is goal of your project, what is the purpose, so the immediate change after your project is implemented, what are the outputs, and what are the activities. It is enough only these four categories. We will not do means, costs, assumptions. We will not do that. Just these four, in order I can see that you understood the differences between goals, purpose, outputs, activities, okay? So think about your project idea, identify a general goal, the overall goal to which you will contribute, purpose, output, and activities. So I'll give you 5 minutes. Think about these categories, and then I would like to collect maybe 2 or 3 of you to tell me
Can I make
what...
a small clarification, please?
Yes.
Not all participants of our summer school have written an essay.
Okay, no problem. In that case, they will come up with their own project ideas right now. So they will think what in their region, what kind of problem is in their region, and they will devise goal, purpose, outputs, and 1 or 2 activities that would build a very simple structure of a project proposal, okay? Let's try to do this.
Kan je repetovat? Das ne hing. Das ne hing. Excuse me, can we clarify how many minutes did you give for the task? 5, okay, thank you.
It should not be that difficult. I mean, keep it simple, just 1 goal, 1 purpose, maybe 1 or 2 outputs and 1 or 2 activities, okay? Focus only on these categories. We will not be doing the rest of the table. So just this, okay? So starting time now. Okay. Lav, Erkurope.
You're very kind. Unlike me.
Drem. Just keep it simple, okay? No need to devise very difficult explanation, why this problem, etc., etc. Just break it down into those simple categories. I just like to see if you understood the differences, and then we will continue. Now, let's try, okay? So I'll get back to that table and would like to see some volunteers who would like to share with us. So maybe first identify your name and from which municipality you are from, and then try to identify those 4 parts of a project proposal, okay? So first volunteer.
My name is Angela. I'm from Yerevan City.
Mm-hmm.
The first point, the goal is raising the media literacy among students. The second, the purpose is providing the participants with the tools. Excuse me, I can't hear. Ayo, şatlava. So the goal is raising literacy among 15 students, school pupils. The second one is providing the participants with tools in order to understand the local media. The second is having 15 media literate participants and check them by a seminar. And the next, the activities is finding donors who can give training. And the next one is making a seminar in order to check the skills.
Okay, good. Good. This is good. Maybe at the level of goal, I wouldn't specify that those needs to be 50. At the level of goal, it is enough if you say that raising media literacy among youth in Armenia, that's a overall goal. That's great. Then the purpose, providing participants with tools to understand local media. Okay. Maybe here would be good to specify whether you will be doing it at the national wide or a certain area. So I would, for example, suggest providing young participants from Yerevan municipality with tools to understand local media. Outputs you identified correctly, so 15 participants that get the training. Activities, seminar or workshop or training on the media literacy itself. The donors finding that could be even before you start drafting this project proposal, so I wouldn't put it as an activity because first you are doing the fundraising, then you are drafting the project proposal, and then when your project proposal is adopted, then you start with implementation, and there are activities. So you don't need to write among activities the donor finding, but workshop, yes, that is. So you can, for example, break it down, workshop or training in Yerevan Kentron, that would be one activity. Workshop in Yerevan Erebuni, another workshop, third Norkimasis, Normasis, etc., etc. Okay, so you can break it down into couple of workshops, and that's it. So very simple. Thank you. It was great. Another one? Another volunteer, or Josep will make somebody volunteer?
Thank you for the feedback.
Yes.
Hello, my name is Hasmik. I'm from Gerarkonik Mars, Kanoni community. As a goal, I have mentioned the care of environment among young people. As a purpose, I have indicated ecological mentality in the community, raising care of environment in the community. In the activities, the
Objectives, first objectives.
learning and seminars on ecosystems, projects on literate ecological system care and changing the behavior of young people and evaluation of the behavior of young people. As an output, I have roughly indicated by figures 50 participants, young people participating in the project. 45 people have turned out to change their behavior, their attitude towards ecological systems. Some of them are participating in physical works, meaning that they are physically taking care and learning from that process.
Okay.
And as an output, I have indicated also some cleaning some part of the community from rubbish, from waste. So this is pretty much it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think you wrote an essay because I remember somebody suggesting something like this. So yes, goal is set
My
correctly.
purpose wasn't ecological, yes, but I have written an essay.
Okay. Okay, so the goal, increase awareness among young people about the environment and need to protect environment. In Armenia, that would be the general goal. Then the purpose, raising awareness about environmental care in community. We can here identify more clearly which community or which municipality. Let's locate it somewhere. So there I would add maybe where exactly it will be. Outputs were set absolutely correctly. So 50 participants that participated, 45 of them changed behavior. That was one. Second, to organize some kind of a cleanup of nature, absolutely perfect. And then the activities, seminars on ecosystems, seminars raising environmental awareness, literacy, evaluation of ecological behavior. Maybe that is some kind of a research. It's also a very good example of activity. And you can put also among activities that clean up. I don't know, cleanup of Hrazdan River. Okay, I know Hrazdan River is not there in your municipality, but so cleanup of a certain river or a certain part of your municipality, okay? Otherwise, perfect. So you understood it correctly. So one last, maybe a gentleman. Gentlemen, don't be shy. Josep, maybe you can help with motivating one more person to give us feedback.
There are many hands raised, but we're asking them by turn.
Okay. So one more, and then we will continue.
Make more.
Hello, my name is Karen. I'm from Ararat Mars, Ararat city. My goal is that there is a big cement factory in Ararat city, and my goal is solving the ecological problem, the air pollution, reducing air pollution. The purpose will be updating and operation of filters of Ararat cement factory and planting trees. The activities includes cooperation with Ararat cement management administration with stakeholders, organizations involving of interested people, and as an output we will have reduction of air pollution and good improved environment.
Thank you. Very good and very practical one. I like this as well. So the goal, reducing air pollution in Ararat municipality correctly. Purpose, fitting filters on Ararat cement factory plus tree plantings on the immediate change after the project implementation. outputs. Here I would put maybe if we have a plan of tree planting, I would put here output, I don't know, 1,000 planted trees or something like that. And then, of course, installed those filters on the Ararat cement factory with the help of within this project activities. Yes, planting of trees, then technical process needed to be put in place in order those filters can be implemented, procurement of those filters, negotiations with the factory, etc., etc. So very good. Okay, I see you got it absolutely perfectly. So thank you very much for your active inputs, and let's continue a little bit. Oops. Okay. So uh, now we will be talking about parts of the project proposal and application form drafting. First, we identified what are our goals, purposes, outputs, activities. Now we will be writing a little bit of bigger project. Here I summarized for you what kind of parts can donors request from you, what you should provide as a narrative parts in the application form. So usually project proposal or project application form starts with a summary. It's a summary where you, in a couple of sentences, you have to summarize what your project is about, what is the goal, what is the purpose, what are the outputs, what are the activities. So on the half page, you identify all those things. When you did first logical framework, now it's for you easy just to pick those information, put them in one nice article, and that's it. Another part is baseline. Sometimes, especially with the bigger projects, you need to write a baseline.
Can we interrupt you for a second to ask
Yes.
a question?
Please, please.
Can we?
Yes, yes, sure.
Sorry for interruption.
No problem.
So,
Is there a question?
can we include in the project proposal, if it is a training project, awareness project, can we indicate the number of female and male participants in the project proposal?
Sure, yes, but that is under the target group. That will be in 1 or 2 slides later. So we will get there, okay?
There's one more question.
Please.
When writing the first page of the project proposal, the brief description can it be in the form of a table?
Usually the table is annex, that logical framework, and the summary usually is a narrative, usually, but this depends on a donor. Each donor has a different application form, and maybe somebody has, some donor has it in the form of a table, so it can be. But I'm now talking about general parts, which are usually part of those application forms. Okay? So first is summary, then goes baseline. Baseline is basically identification of the problem that you would like to solve, that you would like to address. And in this baseline, you also explain why you think it is a problem. You give some kind of information about the state of that problem in your municipality, in your region, etc. And why is it you who has a capacity, who has expertise to help solving that problem? Okay, that is a baseline. And as you can see, also here you can identify target groups. So who will be your target groups? And here you can identify if you have a specific requirement for how many female and male participants you should have, you can identify it already here, okay? So baseline in general, it's a kind of a small research about the need of your project. So you need to kind of explain why the things, why the project that you are proposing is actually needed in your municipality, in your city, in your region. Okay, so that's the baseline. That's the second part usually of the project proposal. Then let's continue. Then is identification of target groups and stakeholders. In the baseline, you identified who will be your target group in general. But here in this part, you will identify the target group in more detail, and you also identify stakeholders. So here you explain in more details whom you will be working with, who will be included into your project, who will help your project to be actually implemented, stakeholders, okay? Who are your enablers, your multipliers, who will help you to spread information about your project broadly. So this is another part, identification of target group and stakeholders. Then comes defining the goal. So once you explained what is the problem and why is it a problem, so then you explained with whom you will be working with, then you describe the goal. You basically copy it from the table of a logical framework. You copy the goal here. Maybe you explain it with one or two sentences why you frame the goal this way. Okay. And you maybe explain how your goal of your project will lead to solving that problem, which you identified in baseline. And then another part, which is probably one of the most important parts, is implementation roadmap. That is usually the biggest part. And here you explain what activities you will organize, what outputs those activities will bring, what means and what kind of resources you will need to mobilize in order those activities can be implemented. And then you link it with the purpose and with the goal of your project. Okay, so this is usually the biggest part of the project proposal or project application form, this implementation roadmap, where you detailedly explain that I will organize workshop for young people from Ijevan municipality. We will try to get 30 people for that workshop. That workshop will be led by an expert in graphical design. A workshop will last for hours. We will need for it a venue rented. We will need some kind of refreshment for coffee break. So here it is what you describe, what you need, what needs to be mobilized in order you can put your project idea into practice. So what you need for implementing of activities and how these activities will lead to outputs, how they are linked with the purpose, and how they will lead to the goal. Okay, so this is the biggest part of the project application form, implementation roadmap. Another part is sustainability. This is very important part. I always stress this because first, let's say what it is. So sustainability is how the situation will look like after your project is implemented. So at this point, you need to think about how will you sustain your project when the funding from that one donor you received funding from, when it is over, when the time of the project implementation is over, how you will sustain those results, and how the project can be then sustained even later, even beyond the implementation period of that project. So already here you need to think, when you are drafting the project proposal, what could be the next steps? Next steps either by you, that you as your organization will do. Maybe you can say that you will be doing fundraising from a different donor for a continuation of the project, or that you will try to mobilize local entrepreneurs to support your youth entrepreneurs hub in Ijevan. Maybe there is there are some kind of a businesses that would finance operation of that hub after money from your donor are over. Maybe there is an interest on the ground to have a sustainability of the project even beyond your project implementation period. So at this point, you need to think about how the project will be sustainable also after money from this particular donor are over. Another part, capacities and previous expertise. Here you explain in the project form why is it you or your organization the right organization or the right person for solving that problem that you identified about, and that you and your organization are the right ones for solving for achieving the goal that you set, and why the donor should choose you. Because, and here you need to explain your expertise, your internal capacities of your organization, that you have a past experience with projects like this, that you already worked with similar projects maybe in the past, that you worked with a certain budget in the past, that you are capable of organizing those activities that you actually describe in the project proposal. So here you can explain that you already did similar workshops that were attended by young people from the region, that you know how to approach them, okay? And for this, it's always good to have kind of a past experience track. And the best way is to have in this digital age, is to have a web page where you are listing all your past projects or your past activities already that you already implemented, where you describe what you already implemented with some photos, with some videos, with some outputs, in order if a donor can double check what you were doing, logs into your web page and sees that really there are some activities, similar activities may be done by your organization or by yourself as an expert, and then the donor will, there is a higher chance that the donor will grant you the money you are requesting for. Okay?
Excuse me, there is a question.
Please.
Thank you. The question is the following. If we do not have experience, if we do not similar experience, can it be an advantage that, for example, if I am an environmentalist and I'm more familiar with environmental issues, so I can implement a project and familiarize others with the environmental issues and how they can become environmentalists?
Yes, absolutely. It's another problem. But as we were discussing in the part about fundraising, check in the guidelines of a donor whether they require already organization that has a past track record of implementing such projects or not. For example, if you are a new organization and you don't have a past track record, you will not apply for European money, for example, for EU grants, because there you need to have a past experience and past projects already implemented. But you will try, for example, International Visegrad Fund, where they don't require you to have too many experience as organization. Now, about the expertise, yes, in this part, you will explain that our organization is a new one, but its staff is already working on these topics for some time. We have expertise, we studied maybe environmental science. You can even, in this part, you can even include CVs or bios of your experts to prove that you have that expertise required. So yes, you can use that as an opportunity. First of all, check when you are searching for a fund, when you are doing fundraising, check whether donor requires you to have past experience with similar projects. There are donors that are
Excuse me, there are two
supporting
more
so-called
questions.
NGO startups, so you don't need to have a past project activities track, but some they require, yes. So you will not go for a EU grant at the beginning, but maybe you will try Visegrad Fund. Okay.
So two more questions.
Okay.
We spoke about space issues. We spoke about local issues, but if there are some international issues, can we involve issues in different countries, in different Armenian communities? Can such projects be financed by grants if they relate to other
Absolutely, yes.
communities in other countries?
Absolutely, yes. It is possible, and it all depends how you set your criteria at the beginning when you are doing fundraising. If you are doing international project, like for example, I was doing many of international projects, then you are searching those donors that are supporting also international projects. For example, we did a project, it was funded by the Slovak government and the International Visegrad Fund. It was a summer school in Georgia for young Georgians, Armenians, Azerbaijanis, and young people from Visegrad 4 countries. It took place in Batumi. It was very nice event, 1 week event, and it was about building bridges among nations among young people that are usually not meeting, like young Azeris and young Armenians. And yes, so it was supported by, the project idea was focused on building those bridges among young people, and donors supported it. So there are different donors that are supporting also international projects. Another big project, really big project, which we implemented just recently when I was part of a different organization. It was a regional project in Western Balkans involving 5 countries of the Western Balkans. And it was a research about youth radicalization, because Western Balkan had a big problem with many people getting radicalized and then going to Syria and Iraq as foreign fighters. So we had a big research project, and then followed with trainings in vulnerable communities about the radicalization, about how to prevent radicalization, on all these things. So depends. If you identify certain international problem or regional problem, you just search for a different donor. Focus on different Armenian communities in diasporas. It's also a good idea. It can be a very nice project, especially now, involving Lebanon, Armenia, maybe. Now lots of grants will go to Lebanon because of the total destruction that is taking place there. So if you can draft a nice project involving Armenia and Armenian communities in, I don't know, Lebanon or Syria or anywhere else, yeah, it can be done. Okay, and second question was?
And there's another question too. My question relates to experience. If we are a new organization and we haven't applied to any donor, but we have implemented some ecological projects as volunteers, meaning that the group was ready to implement ecological activities as volunteers, can it be considered a serious experience, or we need an financed experience, financed projects in order to be considered properly?
Yes, it depends. Depends on the donor. Some donors, they don't mind if you don't have a previous experience in terms of having financial grants from somewhere else, but you have a capacity. That would be your case. some donors, they need you to have some kind of a previous past track record of being implementer of certain projects. But this is exactly this capacities and previous experience part of the project proposal is exactly the space where you need to describe that you have that experience, that you were working as a volunteer in those topics, that you know what you are talking about, that you know what needs to be done. So you use exactly this part of the project proposal in order to make case for your organization that you are capable of handling topic like this. So this is exactly for you, this part, this capacities and previous experience. Okay, let's continue.
There is
Another
one more
part,
question.
sorry, okay.
Thank you. I would like to say, I'd like to ask, when you're applying for a grant, do you necessarily need an NGO, or you can apply as an individual? And if you're an individual, you can find an NGO according to your skills and apply to the grant through this NGO. Thank you.
Yes, that's what I was mentioning during that fundraising. When I was talking about fundraising, there are two options. One option is that you are an organization and you are searching for grants, or a second option is that you are an expert and you are searching for grants. So there are grants for NGOs and for organizations, but there are also individual grants for experts, for researchers mobility, but even for young people, there are grants for young people to go as volunteers somewhere to get some more skills, for example. Actually, also International Visegrad Fund is supporting students from your region, for example, to go to study in Visegrad 4 countries. So scholarships, yeah, so it's possible. It's again part of the fundraising that you need to identify what is your main purpose of your search for a certain grant, and based on that, you know that you need to search different organizations, different donors that are supporting organizations, or those who are supporting individuals or mobility of experts or yeah, or individuals. Okay, but let's go back to the project proposal. We are soon finishing with this part, so let me finish. So after
Can
the
I make an addition, please?
yes,
There are donors who provide funding grants to initiatives which are not formally registered.
yes, that too.
So it
Yes, that
depends
is
on the
true.
donor and
Mhm.
grant.
Yes, 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 absolutely. Yes, for example, European Endowment for Democracy. They are supporting also initiatives. Yes, you are right. Okay, so back to the project proposal drafting. Another part that is usually in most of the project proposal or project application forms is budget description. So usually you write a budget into a nice table, which is in annex of this project application. But usually there is also a space in the project application form where you, in writing, you describe or explain what kind of expenses you expect to be needed for implementation of your activities. So budget is usually a nice Excel sheet somewhere in the annex, but some donors require you, in order you explain that simple Excel sheet, why you need, I don't know, so much money for traveling, so much money for catering, etc., etc. So in this part of a project application, you usually need to explain in a couple of sentences how you will use those resources and how you calculated those resources. This is important for the donor to see that your budget is A, effective, economical, and that you know how to plan your finances, okay? So that is important. Another part is risk and their mitigation. I mentioned it a couple slides ago already, but already in your project proposal, you need to think about potential risks that can hamper your project implementation. What will you do if those risks appear? Example. So if you have, for example, a plan to organize workshop for young people to boost their capabilities, to boost their experience, to boost their expertise in terms of web designing in each one municipality, you might need to think about risk that there will be some kind of like, for example, now pandemics that can prevent you to meet in person. So in that case, you write that in case of remaining COVID-19 restrictions on a meeting in person, that you will organize webinar instead, okay? So that is how you identify risk and the mitigation. For example, we are now implementing one project, our organization, which is focusing on the Western Balkans and raising and building expertise among young people about this project management skills. And we plan it as a in-person activity, that we were supposed to travel there to those countries and do these trainings in person. But unfortunately, COVID-19 came, so we had to change the format, and now we are doing it as webinars, okay? So you need to already at this planning phase think about the risks that can potentially hamper your implementation of activities, and to think about how you will mitigate those risks if they appear. Visibility plan. Another important part, usually it is at the end of the project application form, is visibility plan. That is how you will promote outputs of your activities, how you will inform about your activities during the implementation of the project. Usually, not usually, all donors would like to be seen, and they would like to see their logo attributed to a certain project that is successful. They like to see the successful project. And in this digital age, it can be successful only if it is visible. So what is important is that you plan already at this stage, you plan how you will, what kind of tools or methods you will use in order your outputs are published, are well known, how you will reach to as many potential target group representatives or stakeholders, how you will approach them, okay? So it's always good to have kind of a plan how you will do visibility for your project. Usually in bigger projects, it's in this part. And last but not least are annexes. Annexes are those parts that you attach to the project application form. That can be logical framework. Those can be letters of intent from partner organizations. Those can be like some kind of a registration documents from state registries. It can be CVs of experts. That can be budget, anything. So make sure that you read what are the conditions of the call and what are the required annexes in order you have all the papers needed at hand. Devil's in the details, as they say. So make sure that your project is not disqualified because of some stupid or missing papers. Some donors, they can give you opportunity to add those annexes if you miss them, but some donors, they don't care, and they just exclude your project from consideration. Okay, so we wrote the project proposal application form, and now what? There are two steps that or two types of projects. proposal applications. One is one-step project proposal application. When you submit all your necessary documents before the deadline, you send it to the donor and they do the evaluation. And then you will learn whether you receive the grant or not. Mirope, how said Mirope? Okay, I'm about to finish this part and we will have coffee break. Okay, Mirope. So that is one step. Or then there are two-step project proposal applications. Those are usually larger projects, like for example, EU projects. When you submit a concept note in first place, like short or shorter version at 10 pages, you summarize the project and you give a baseline. You send it to the donor, and then when donor likes your concept note, he selects you for a second round, and then you have to submit the full application. Full application meaning all those parts which we were discussing on those two slides before. Okay, so these are two-step application processes, and in those are usually bigger projects, like European projects, where you just send concept note, and then if you are successful with concept note, then you submit the full application. Just recently, we finished last year, we finished one big project in Georgia. It was financed by the EU funds and EuropeAid. And first we sent a concept note that was around 12 pages, 16 pages. We were successful. Then they let us know that, okay, provide us with the full application. That was another 56 pages of materials, annexes, everything. And then we were successful, and then we were implementing it for 2 years. But that was a big project. That was around €500,000, or bigger project. That was around €500,000. Okay, and some tips, and then we will wrap it up and we will have a coffee break. So when you are drafting a project proposal, make sure that you correctly understood the main features of the call. So when is the deadline, what are the eligibility criteria, what are the main conditions of the call, what is the amount of money that you can request from the donor, what are the donor's goals, and in case you are not sure, then just ask the donor. Usually there is, with each application, there is a kind of a contact where you can send email or ask them. If you are not clear what are the conditions, you can write them, and they are usually helpful to inform you what needs to be done. Think of a catchy name for a project that, however, clearly defines what is the project about. Yes, the name is important. You know, marketing is important, especially in this digital age. So think about the catchy name that will clearly define what your project is about, but it can be easily remembered, because then you will be using it with the visibility and advocacy. We will get to that in the second part. Even before starting to draft a project, research a little, do a research. Yes, that is the baseline that I mentioned to you. You need to know the problem. You need to identify it and explain in plain and simple language to the donor why you think that is a problem, and that your organization or you as an expert are the right ones to help with solving it. Start drafting the project proposal with logical framework if it is required. That is my advice to everybody, because on that one page you can see all those main features. So if you think about it, you write it properly once, then it is easier for you to write it in a broader, in more details in that big application form. Pay attention to sustainability part. Yes, this is usually underestimated by the applicants, but it is very important for donors, because donors, they would like to see that their projects are alive and they continue alive also after they stop financing your part. Coordinate drafting with your partners. So if you are working with a bigger consortium, with partners, especially from abroad, make sure that everybody knows what their organization needs to be done, that they know what are the expectations, what are the terms, what needs to be done. This is really important, especially in international consortiums, because, you know, everybody has a different culture of working, and sometimes it's a really challenge. I led number of big consortiums of organizations working. For example, that on the Georgian project we had we had two European Union organizations, our organization plus one Lithuanian, and we had 5 organizations from Georgia. And it was a challenge sometimes to work with Georgians and to get them to be on the same page and to be clear who needs to do when and how and what quality. It was a challenge, but communication is important. Make sure that you have all annexes prepared to be sent together with the main application form, and be innovative, think out of box and come up with some smart solutions. I mean, these are very practical things from own experience, because some things I tested, some things I tested and failed. So all these recommendations are based on my own experience. So to what pay attention when you are drafting a project proposal for a donor? Now some tips how to do it or how not to do it. First of all, time management, that is very important. So think how much time you will need for preparing the project proposal. Always check it properly. What are the conditions? How large is the application form? How complicated it is? Distribute enough time for you to have enough time before the deadline. Make sure that you fulfill all eligibility criteria. We said that. Set the purpose and outcomes realistically and measurably, because you are responsible for delivering on them. This is also what I said, that outcomes are those that you need to deliver, and the donors will evaluate the successfulness of or success of your project based on meeting those outcome criteria. Explain clearly the problem that you want to address. Analyze stakeholders. This is also important. Who can help you with the implementation of your project? With whom you need to work? Who is your target group? Outline clear timeline for your project. Yes. Always plan in advance approximately in what time you would organize which activity. Explain how those activities will link up. Yes, I'm finishing. And assess means and resources that needs to be done. Okay, this is what we did. Coffee break, 30 minutes. Okay. So we have, yes, okay, 38. Sorry.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So the Q&A will be during the next session.
Yes, yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So make sure that everybody knows what she needs to do within the project team, within the consortium. Save notes, photos, short videos, as well as examples of material that you used while implementing your activity. You will need it for later stages, for accounting, for visibility purposes. So always save these things. And even the best plan might change in contact with reality. Communicate changes well ahead to the donor. They say that even the best plan cannot survive the contact with the reality. So yes, of course, there will be changes. There might be changes, and the donors they know that there might be changes. Some kind of vis major can interfere and change your plans. But if you are planning any changes, or if you see that there are any changes, it's always needed to consult them with the donor. If donor knows about your problems or about your proposed changes, then they are more willing to approve those changes. But if you do changes without donor even knowing, and then at the end of the implementation you write what you did and how you did, and donor will find out that okay, but you did it somehow differently than what it was approved in your project proposal, then you have a problem, and your donor might even require you to give back money. So pay attention to this. Some tips for implementation. Always invite representatives of the donor for each activity. Even if they will not be able to come, they will know that the project activity is progressing, that the project is progressing. This is quite useful. And it's part of that kind of a communication, constant communication with the donor. So you are preparing for a project activity. So you send invitation also to a representative of the donor in order somebody from their organization can come. If they can come, they will come. If they cannot come, well, at least they are aware that the project is progressing, that you are doing activities. They are aware of activity taking place at the time. So it's always good to send invitation to the representative of donor ahead of update information about project activity online to your social media feed, and what is not online did not happen. You know, in the digital age, everything needs to be online. What is not online did not happen. So make sure that every activity is represented on your web page, organization web page, or at least at your Facebook page, or is somehow reflected in your social media feed in order other people can know that something actually took place. Scope the market for most cost-effective solutions. I spoke about this already. try to find the best services that fits your budget. Try to eye for quality and reliability. Make sure that you have all necessary invoices and receipts from expenses incurred. Make sure your suppliers or providers of services or experts are aware when they will be paid and how. This is also important, especially if there is a delay in the tranches from the donor. Make sure that your service providers or experts or whoever participated in your project and needs to be paid, that they know when they will be paid. Okay, so when you are waiting for a next tranche of money from donor, make sure that you inform also those involved that when they will receive. Okay, next one. This is also very important. Always invite representatives of media and key stakeholders to your activity. They are on your side or get them on your side. Always try to invite people who can shape opinion about or amplify your outputs, can help you boost your visibility. Try to involve them, search for synergies. So we will be talking about this in visibility part in a slide or two, but always try to incorporate those people like media, bloggers, vloggers, YouTubers that have a similar view, or they perceive a certain problem the same as you do, in order they promote your case. Like, for example, the environmental protection. I'm sure in the region there are people, bloggers or YouTubers that are dealing with the issues, that have a certain amount of followers. You can get them on your side in order they support your project, your cause, and speak about it and to talk about why it is needed to clean up that particular river or that particular park from the waste. Okay, so use synergies, use those people who are kind of opinion shapers. Ask participants and stakeholders for their feedback. It will help you with your own evaluation as well as with setting the other activities right. This is important for you as a project manager. If you are organizing a certain activity, certain event, certain workshop or anything, you always ask participants for their feedback, what they think about how useful it was for them, in order then you can adapt activity for the future if needed. Okay, so I'm sure there will be feedback session at the end of the summer school for you from HOVSEP, when you will be asked for your evaluation, how you liked your summer school here. If you are publishing something within the project, some kind of study or research result or research paper, so make sure that you publish it, but also make sure that you are following also those obligatory steps concerning publishing. For example, in Slovakia, not sure how it is in Armenia, but in Slovakia, if you are publishing a scientific piece or scientific book or paper, it needs to be registered, and you need to send at least one copy to a state national library. Okay, so there is such obligation that you need to send at least one piece of this document to a national library in order they have all the books that were published in Slovakia. Depends, maybe there are different criteria for Armenia. It's varies country by country. Set the language as well as the way of communication about the results in line with your target group. It is always a good idea to have a copywriter, editor at hand. As again, practical thing, if you are working on an international project, you have a consortium of other nationalities or other internationals. You usually use English as a working language. It's always good to have a proofwriter or some kind of a spell checker or somebody who helps you to polish your outputs that you are publishing on your project website in order everything is fine and in line and in order. It is professional. It's not just some kind of output for an output, okay? Make sure that all deviations from the planned budget are in the line with financial guidelines of the donor. If a change in the budget is needed to be formally requested, make sure that you fulfill this obligation. That's what I said already. If there is a change in the plan of activities, change in the budget, some donors, they require that you send them a written request for change in the budget. So make sure that you did send that formal request, that you did that formal change. Otherwise, you can get yourself in a trouble. Make sure that you are aware of tax and other obligations required by your country or the country of the project implementation. This is important, especially when you are implementing a project somewhere abroad, where is a different taxation system, where maybe customs are applied to. So make sure that you know how much money you need to also allocate for this kind of expenses, and whether those expenses can be even used with that given donor, okay? Okay, visibility. I include visibility as a part of the project implementation package. Yes, there is advocacy afterwards. We will get to that as a separate part. But under visibility, we understand that common letting everybody involved know what is going on, when it is going on, why it is going on, who is involved, etc., and what is the time frame. So basically, when you are implementing project, you are also letting stakeholders and target groups know that your project is in certain phase in implementation of certain activity. It also serves as a kind of a verifiable way of keeping track of your past project experience. So when, for example, HOFSEP now is implementing this project, he has a web page or sub part of web page where information about all project activities are collected. There are photos, videos, etc., etc. And then when he will begin applying for a project, maybe with a different donor that doesn't know his organization, the donor always can find on the web page what has been done, can compare, and it increases trust of the donor to potential grantee. Okay, so it's important to keep this track record online. Yes, important. Visibility is important. Yes, often overlooked by the CSO NGO workers. So don't be like that. Doing it right is the key to project success for potential future new projects. Some tips and recommendations for visibility. Golden rule: get the right information to the right people at the right time. So this is kind of a recipe for a success. It's very logical, but it's sometimes not that easy to really stick to it, to get that information at the right time to the right people, because when you are implementing activity, you are responsible for many other processes that are taking place. You are moderating maybe a session, but at the same time, you need to also put something on your Twitter, or so it is always good to have a division of work in the team. Somebody is doing tweeting, somebody is making photos, making short videos. Division of work helps. Use infographics, pictures, short videos, banners, memes, etc. Yes, digital age, we are overloaded with information and we seek simplicity. So try to use graphic information, simpler information, videos maybe, or use different ways of approaching your stakeholders or your target group, because sometimes, not sometimes, always, you have so much information around you floating that it's more difficult for you to focus on a certain issue, on a certain topic. So you need to repeat your messaging. You need to repeat your narrative, sometimes in a different way or through a different channels to your stakeholders, to your target groups, in order they get the information, they get your narrative, they react to your narrative, they follow you, they spread further your narrative. So sometimes you need to use different platforms at the same time in order you achieve your visibility the way you want it. Here is one simple recommendation. Graphical design matters these days. So try to put it in the budget. When you're already planning budget for the project proposal, try to budget some amount of time and amount of money for graphical design in order graphician has enough time, enough money to work on some of your recommendation you have. Visibility costs, but it pays back in the end if done well. So this is also connected. Think about what you would like to do to boost visibility of your project, to boost visibility of your outputs, and try to budget it already in the budget proposal. When you are building budget, try to think about it already then. Plan well also time-wise visibility outputs and tools. Yes, this is connected with what I said, the 2 bullet points ago. So if you don't give enough time for your graphical designer, he or she will rebel. But if you will not have special visibility features, your outputs will look dull or boring. So it's always good to plan that, okay, that graphical designer will need maybe 2 weeks to develop some kind of nice infographics for a web page, but let's give him those 2 weeks. I will plan it in my project activities timeline. In order, then I can use those infographics for the activity, and after activity promoting it as a visibility feature. And that will attract more people. It will attract more stakeholders, more target group representatives than if I would just tell them something like at the event, I will just read them some information that my research found out, for example, okay? Use proper communication channels based on your target group. So if you are communicating with young people, you use, I don't know what is now in Armenia, what young people are using. Is it Instagram or I don't know. It varies country by country, people by people. It's different, but different target group you are approaching, you need to use suitable channels, communication channels. Use multipliers. I spoke about it. Use those people who will amplify or shape opinion, or credible leaders that support your project, that are known in their community, or they can spread the information about your project further. Use stories to help to tell your story. This is a good thing as well. Ask your stakeholders for their feedback, written or in video messages, kind of a story, because stories are more interesting to listen. It's more interesting to listen to a story than to listen to a dry lecture. So it's always good to have a feedback from participants, maybe, or a story which fits nicely into goal of your project. Always request consent. Yes, if you are publishing somebody's face on or video online, make sure that you have consent of that person. Especially in European Union, we have this GDPR, and that matters. Okay, some more tips. Again, very practical. Dedicate a subsection of your web page, if you have a web page, your organization, for each new project, and make sure that you regularly upload their information, use social media. What is not in internet did not happen. We spoke about all this. Okay, let's continue. Okay, some more information now. Visibility. Draft visibility plan already when you are drafting project proposal. That was when you remember when we were talking about project proposal drafting, I mentioned that one of the parts is visibility plan. So try to think about it when you are already applying for the project, how you will use, what tools will you use for visibility, and how much it could cost in order you can then budget it. And then, of course, if you have that plan, then stick to it. Communicate more than you should, or more than you think you should. That is what I was talking about, that you need to receive information from different channels in order you get note of that information. So the more ways of communication you use, the higher chance that the target groups will get your message. Be extra transparent, especially towards the donor. So communicate with the donor about what you managed to achieve, how you achieve, and when you achieve. Establish good working relations with the stakeholders. Stakeholders are those who are helping your cause, helping your project to achieve the goal that you are implementing. For example, in case of raising ecology awareness, ecological awareness project proposal that somebody mentioned, the stakeholders would be local municipality people, to get them on your side in order they understand that your project will help to make their city, their municipality nicer. So they are supporting you. They are not standing in your way. They help you maybe with providing some tools or some material that you need on that concrete day when you will be doing the trash pickup in the park or along the riverbed. So make them aware about the project, make them aligned with your goal, and then they can help you. Offer real-time visibility on the status of deliverables and outputs. Yes, it's important. It's important to communicate at the right time. If you remember, the first slide of visibility was to get the right information to right people at the right time. So use the real-time visibility. I don't know, streaming or immediate communication on social media when the activity is taking place. Be consistent, so keep stakeholders interested and build trust with them through communication. Make sure that everybody in the project consortium and project team is on the same page. So make sure that everybody is saying the same thing and the same narrative. It boosts your credibility and also trust towards stakeholders. Okay, we are nearing to the to the closing, slowly nearing to the closing of our lesson today. The fourth part or fourth stage, if you still remember that circle, is performance and control. Performance and control, it means for us as NGO CSO workers that we check how our project is progressing towards the goal that we set, and whether we are in the line with the project proposal that was sent to the donor, that was approved by the donor, and that is mentioned actually also in the grant agreement. So that is control, and these are control mechanisms for us to check whether we are nearing to the goal and whether we are implementing the project as it was proposed. There are two important reasons why we do this performance and control check. First is our own feedback for our own purposes, in order we know what needs to be done, what needs to be changed, what needs to be amended in the process of implementation, or if, especially in case of if this implementation is not leading towards the goal that we set. So it's our internal, for our own purposes, kind of a feedback. And then second reason is it's important tool for donor to measure success, usefulness, and efficiency of the project. How we do that part, it's through sending to the donor midterm or final reporting. And through that mechanism, donor can check whether we fulfill or not fulfill the goal. Evaluation. Evaluation is the final stage of the project management cycle. I include here also advocacy, though advocacy is it's starting already during the implementation. Visibility and advocacy are interconnected, but advocacy is a little bit higher level, and advocacy is also an important part when you finished your project activities. Your project is already implemented, and you are doing advocacy for your project. What it means, it's making stakeholders, target groups, and potential multipliers aware of the project results. So what you managed to achieve, what outcomes, what purpose, and whether you achieved the goal. And it also is used, this advocacy, for mobilizing stakeholders for purpose or change or action. It also, along with visibility, an important method to keep track record of the project after it's finished. What it means, what this means. It means that advocacy is also used for mobilizing your stakeholders or potential target groups or potential other donors for change or for certain action. So you implemented a project, you have nice and successful outcomes, you managed to get to the purpose and contribute to the goal, but still that problem is not solved totally. Like youth unemployment in Armenia cannot be changed with one project, of course. So at the end of your project, you can make a case, you can make advocacy, you can make event you can use media to make people aware, broad general public aware that you implemented the project, but that there is still this problem remaining in your country, in your region, and somebody else could take up the baton and contribute to its solution. Either local municipality or state institutions or other donors or international donors, international organizations, or simply a people, like with the environmental raising awareness. You do the project, you raise awareness among young people, you do some cleanups. Now project is over, the money were spent, were used successfully and usefully. But still you can make case, okay, we cleaned this river, we cleaned that park, we raised awareness, but there are so many other places where we could do it. We could do it in other park, we can clean up that forest, we can clean up that tourist trail over there. So you make a point, you use the momentum that your project is now finished, and you call up for another action, our subsequent action. So that's advocacy, okay? And second part of the evaluation phase is reporting to donor and financial accounting. I mentioned it a couple of times during today. That is totally last phase that you do within the project implementation, that you collect all the documents that you need for accounting, you do the accounting, you put together accounting in the form as it is prescribed in your country, you give it for audit if needed, and then you submit it to the donor. At the same time, you draft You draft a final report. Usually donors have a specific form for that, where they are asking you a different question in order they can check how you implemented the project. You submit this final narrative report as well. Tips for advocacy. Engage decision makers, local or state level. That's in theory how I show it on that practical example of raising awareness about environmental in your municipality. But at the end of the project, you try to call representatives of the local municipality, maybe state level representatives that are responsible for environment, and explain them that you achieve this and that with this amount maybe of resources from that donor, but there are still lots of things to be done. Maybe there could be continuation, maybe there can be kind of a volunteer action that the municipality will organize, cleanup of lakeside or cleanup of park or something, okay? So engage decision makers. Engage other potential donors for follow-up project activities or co-financing, part of the project sustainability. This is also very useful. So when you finish your project, make sure that information about your successful finishing of the project gets also to other potential donors, where you can apply in the near future for continuation of your project, okay? So again, you use momentum that you successfully concluded one project, and you can get maybe a financial support from other donors. Mobilize multipliers and opinion shapers, make them aware of the project results, as well as what should be the next steps in the future. That's related with the stakeholders I mentioned. Use momentum of project successfully done to advocate for its cause, highlight the problem and propose solution. That's what I showed you on that example of cleanup, how to use the momentum that the project is over. You can use the momentum for mobilizing or advocating for that cause that we really need to do the cleanup in different maybe areas. Go to Brussels virtually or quite literally. This is what we used to include in each of our bigger project was to go to Brussels to talk to stakeholders there about achievements of our projects, what we achieved, what we managed to achieve, especially if those were international or regional projects. Maybe they will note something interesting from the way how we approach the problem. Maybe they will support some kind of follow-up activities. Maybe they will support some kind of a co-financing for the project. So it's always good to talk to stakeholders at the higher level. In our case, okay, we are EU country, so in our case that is Brussels, because many decisions are being taken there and many policies are formed there. In case of Armenia, maybe to talk at the national level, maybe with the ministries responsible for a certain area, talk with them about potential impacts, what they could do, what could be the follow-up, okay? So go to Brussels means to go to higher entity that could help you with continuation of the project. Tips for reporting. So that was advocacy, this is the reporting. So we are sitting at the end of the project at the computer, and you should draft a narrative report. What you should have in mind. Compare the project results with the project proposal. So what you proposed to the donor at the beginning and what you managed to get. By using measurable indicators. Remember measurable indicators. We mentioned them a couple of times, those are important. So in order at the end, you know how many people were participating in one activity, second activity, third activity, how many publications were published, how many project ideas were suggested, how many essays were written, all these statistics that's important to keep. So use these measurable indicators when drafting the final report. Explain any changes and or deviations from the original plan indicators if needed. So if you didn't manage to reach those indicators that you suggested at the beginning in the project proposal, explain why you didn't get there. So, well, because of coronavirus, we could not organize a broader session, broader summer school in Achveran, because the current regulation was meeting of people up to 30 maximum, okay? That it is safe. Or I don't know, any other reasons. Okay, then produce the final project report. Donor usually has its own form for it. Try to be precise and as clear as possible. Make sure to attach all needed annexes, especially sources of verification for measurable indicators. I mentioned it a little bit already. This final report, usually you write it into a form that is given to you by a donor. The same way as there is a form for a project application at the beginning, usually donor has a specific form for a final report. In order, it is written in a certain logical, systemic way, and donor can evaluate or compare between different projects. How successful was project A compared to project B or C? So usually they have a project reporting form at the end. Prepare the final project budget with spending and accompanied accounting documents. Always keep originals of receipts, invoices, agreements with you in your archive and deliver copies to the donor. Digitalize documents for archiving purposes. Paper is not eternal. This is a little bit bureaucratic thing, but it's important. Always make copies of your make a copy of your final accounting, send the copy to the donor, but original keep in your accounting, in your archive, just in case if something happens, you still can create a copy, another copy, and send once again if it gets lost or something, and digitalize. It's important these days to make a scan of your expenses, digitalize, and backup. Because paper is not eternal, paper can get lost, paper can get burned. Okay, digital track also can get erased, but if you back it up in different places, then there is a higher chance that your project results are saved somewhere safely. Hand over all necessary documents to the donor, stakeholders, partners, and multipliers. Terminate suppliers' contracts if needed. Release project resources. So at the end, make sure that you send all those documents that you need to send to donor. Make sure that the stakeholders received what you promised them that they will receive. Partners, they receive all payments, that the agreements are fulfilled. If you need to finish some kind of contract, you need to terminate some kind of contract, make sure that you terminate the contract. I don't know, you have a 12 months subscription to Zoom within the projects, it's budgeted, so then at the end you need to cancel it in order you can account it, and then if you have a new project you can buy a new license, etc. So depends. Conduct lessons learned brainstorming with the team, partners, consortium, or key stakeholders to examine what went well and what didn't. This is what I suggest at the end. Remember when we were talking about project implementation activities, I also said that it's always good to have a sit down and brainstorming what went well, where were deficiencies. Well, the same, just in a big picture, is good to be done at the end. So when the project is over, you sit together with partners, with members of the consortium, with some key stakeholders, and you discuss with them the the results, how you get there, what are the things that were successful, what you should do differently, what should be follow-up activities, where you can get future finances for example, or co-financing from. So all these things you just discuss with your team. Maybe it's good also to write it down for you. And when you are drafting a new project proposal, you know that you need to think about these things. And that's it. This is the end of my presentation. So here's time for your for your questions. So if you have any questions, just please let me know. At the beginning, I didn't say too much about our organization. In the meantime, okay, you will get this presentation, so you will find also these contacts here. Strategic Analysis is Slovakia-based think tank and consultancy. We do consultancy for NGOs and CSOs, especially from Balkans and South Caucasus region. So if you will be applying for projects and you would like us to help you, we can assist you. If you are searching for a partner that from our region, from EU countries or Visegrad region, we are ready to help you. So just you can send us email, or you can write us, and we can assist you. So we are doing this kind of assistance to NGOs or CSOs from European neighborhood countries to build a good project, better projects, to have higher chance of receiving grants for their projects. So here are the contact details. You can join us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, whatever you like. And I'm ready to answer your questions. Thank you.
I would like to thank Jan. Thank you, Jan. It is very important, especially what was said in the final stage, that if you want to work in an NGO or CSO and implement a project, it is going to be very important for you to find partners in European countries. And if you are applying for Visegrad countries, it is important to find them in 4 Visegrad countries. I have encountered this issue, this problem to find partners in those countries. So now you already have one friend, one partner in the face of Jan. And the other 3 countries will remain for you to find partners. But I'm sure that our partners from Czech Republic will also help you if you approach them. But Jan proposed himself to be your partner, so it's a big advantage. So I hope that you will take this advantage. As we spoke about grant agreements, I'm interested about the termination of grant agreement. What are the implications of 2 partners if the grantee, if the applier is the one who wants to terminate? What are the implications?
Yes, applicant. Okay, so grant agreement is agreement between the donor and the grantee or the applicant, and can be terminated from both sides actually. So if donor is not satisfied with the implementation, it can first issue a warning, tell you, okay, you need to improve this and that, those verifiable measurables, those indicators, or you need to deliver properly on those and that things. Second, can cut you a certain amount of budget if you are not performing as you are supposed to perform, or to cancel the agreement at all. I mean, that's the most serious step from the side of the donor, but can happen. In a different setup, when you as a grantee or applicant, you want to terminate the agreement with donor, you can do that, of course. you need to send a written formal request for termination of the grant agreement, and you need to return, of course, money that you spent, the money that you were allocated for the project. If you implemented some activities, you can agree with the donor that those money should remain with you. If you implemented something and you already paid something and you provided some deliverables, some outputs, a certain amount of grants could stay with you, but the rest you need to return back. Or if the donor requires that in case of cancellation of the grant agreement, you need to give back the whole amount of money. Okay.
Thank you. Next question. Can the projects with partial business interest apply for projects too?
Very good question. Depends. Depends on donor again. So some donors, they don't have a problem supporting an idea that can further develop into a business plan and have its own income separately. Here I advise very strongly to check guidelines of the donor, whether they are supporting also those kind of activities that can lead to for-profit activities. It's strictly donor by donor basis. Some donors, they are supporting only non-benefit, non-profit, only non-profit organizations. Some support also certain profit. Yes, it's donor by donor. For example, Slovak 8, we had one project that was kind of a building possibilities for a Slovak exporters to Georgia, and it was possible. So it was a kind of a project that prepared ground for benefit activities. It was possible, but other donors, they might not support it. So it's donor by donor.
If the young people apply for creating businesses, will they be encouraged to do so if they are already adolescent? If they are
Not sure I get the question correctly. So whether they are
under 18,
under
young
18.
people, if yes,
Okay.
under 18.
Okay, under 18. This is a tricky one. Some of the activities and some projects are focused on young people, and they can be even below 18. It's not a problem. Some donors like Salto or Erasmus Plus, that they can support also young people that are younger than 18 years old. But again, it's donor by donor. If a donor has a regulation that those needs to be people of age, then they needs to be about 18. There might be exceptions if parents sign kind of a, you know, what's the English word for it? They sign some kind of a recommendation that this underage child is can be responsible or legally responsible for certain things. So if there is a kind of a agreement signed by the parent of that child, in that case it can work. But it's again, it's donor by donor. Some donors are supporting activities also for children or young adolescents, and some are over supporting activities over the maturity age.
I'm interested, how much is it probable that newly created NGOs or foundations, how is it likely that they receive grants in order for them to create websites, to rent offices, to be established, to form a team, to establish this or that NGO, and what is needed for that?
Understand. Well, yes, it's always difficult for starting NGO or CSO to work itself up, but it's possible, and you should not be discouraged. First of all, what I would suggest at the beginning, to start as being a partner in a certain project. So if you don't have a track record, you can become a partner of certain consortiums. So you can be a partner of in bigger projects, and through that way you can build your track record. Because if you are a partner, it also counts. So if you are a partner in a certain project where there is a different leader, but you have experience of implementing that project, then you can use it as your past experience for a new application, I don't know, next year or later. Now, to establishment of office and running of office. At the beginning, maybe it's a good idea just to start from your own living room, but then there are also donors that are supporting, they are providing institutional grants, and through these institutional grants, you can get money for actually running your organization or starting your organization, for buying equipment, renting premises. And these institutional grants or institutional donors, they are supporting organizations like this, especially in the neighborhood countries. Most of the EU countries, NGOs that are based in the European Union countries, they are already not eligible for this kind of funds. But from Armenia, you would be eligible. If you would be interested, you can shoot me contact. We can provide you with some recommendations which donors are providing actually this kind of infrastructural, this kind of grants also for running organizations. So that's the way how you can also start it, how you can build those bases for your organization. But when you ask how likely that you will receive a grant, well, everything is about idea. If you have a good project idea that is trying to solve a real problem in your region, then I'm sure that you will receive, that you have a very good chance of receiving a grant for solving that problem. I read all of your essays, whoever wrote essays, I read all those essays. I like there were a couple of very good project ideas. We are actually developing right now one of the project idea with HOVSEP into a project. I hope that that we might succeed with that. So fingers crossed. We would like to work also in Armenia. Yes, there were really some very good ideas. I rated some of the works really highly because I have a decent knowledge of Armenia, decent knowledge of its problems in different regions. So it was some those suggestions were really good, and I really like them. So what is most important, to have a really good idea, good project idea that is reflecting a real problem, and then you will always find somebody who will help you how to develop that project idea into something really interesting and appealing also for the donor, or to build a really good project proposal. So that's what we are doing, for example.
Thank you. If possible, I would like to ask for information and contact information to be provided. Thank you. Because you mentioned that it is possible that you support in this regard.
That we can, yes, we can share our expertise. We can share our database of donors. We can share entries from our database of donors. We can help you with linking you up with partners, not only from Slovakia, but also maybe Czech Republic, Hungary, Poland, if you would like to apply for Visegrad, for example, or point you in the right direction. I don't know if you still see on the screen, there are my contacts. So there is a web page. You can find on that web page my contacts. There is my email address, Facebook, Twitter. So just send me an email, send us email, and we can point you the right direction. Okay.
Thank you. I'd like to add something.
Plus, I will share
You
this.
remember.
Just a second. Plus, I will share this presentation. I will send it to HOVSEP, or HOVSEP already has it. Yes, HOVSEP already has it. So HOVSEP can share it to you. I'm sure he has your mailing list, so he can send it to you, and then you can send me email with your specific question. Okay.
I have distributed among you a list of donors. First of all, regarding your essays, I told you that we will try to find grants based on the best essays written, and we are working together with on one of them together with Jan, and we will consider the rest, of course, if there is an opportunity. If there is an opportunity to find grants, we will involve the rest too. Regarding the space, not only the beginners, but also the established organizations can tackle the issue of space in their homes. For example, this project, which is a big project of several tens of thousands euros, including the conference, the summer school, I'm doing this without renting an office, from home.
You know, home officing.
There are
now
ways
COVID
where
crisis.
you can minimize. Or you can minimize the need of space. Of course, sometimes you need it for meetings, for meetings with volunteers, for example. Of course, it's not convenient to bring them to your home. That's why they call it a shared space. There is a tool in the NGO sector where you can agree with a certain NGO who can provide you with a space regularly, for example, once a week. Who can provide you with a room in their office. or they can give you a computer with a table in one of their rooms in their office. This can be on both on paid and unpaid basis, but in any case, it will be much more easier and less costly for you if you rent out compared to renting an office. So it will be also better for the donor to see that you are doing your expenses, that you're making your expenses efficiently.
Yes.
And if the major part of the budget is allocated to office, the donor might have the expression that you're just spending the monies for renting an office. And if the donor sees that you're not requiring money for excessive needs, then they will be more biased to give you the grant.
Yes.
I'm not talking only about the office, but I'm saying that we need certain equipment, certain furniture, or some goods to do our activities. Yes, for example, I needed a projector under one project, and I bought it under that project, and afterwards I don't ask for any projects. I mention it as co-funding. And while searching for funds, for fundraising, please visit our Young Activist website, where you can find a detailed video where you can reinforce what you heard today and learn something new. So, okay, let's continue with Jan. Okay, this is pretty much it from our side.
Okay. I started ahead of time. Finished ahead of time. We started ahead of time a little bit, so we also finished ahead of time. Well, thank you very much for being such a nice audience, attentive audience. Enjoy your stay in Achmeran. I really wish I could be there with you to be able to come to Armenia, but unfortunately, because of the COVID situation, and Armenia is a red country in Slovakia, is considered as a red country in Slovakia, so we could not travel. But at least this way I could link up with you. So enjoy your stay. If you have any questions or any follow-ups, just feel free to contact us. We will be happy to develop cooperation also with you. And Snoraka Lucian, Ajo Hutsunze.
Thank you too. See you later.
Ajo, paka. Ajo Hose, paka.
Adiós. Adiós.